Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Heavily Altered Podcast. Number, what's 13 in Spanish? Whatever, 13. 14 años. No, trece.
Nope, that's
trece.
14 years. What are you talking
No,
about?
I think
Trece.
it's Diaz.
Trece.
Nope, that's never mind. That's wrong. I took Spanish way too long.
It's
ago.
trece, right?
Yes, I think you're right. Something like that.
Who knows?
Trece.
It's okay.
I
Our
don't know.
our Spanish audience is not that large. We're not gonna.
I have a fear
Dos.
of the number 13. That's why I didn't want to say trece. Or I didn't want to say 13. Oh,
But you
well.
still said it
Even though
in
he
Spanish,
just said
though.
it 3 times, and he said it.
You
also
said it in
English.
Spanish.
I know. Every time I see the Star Wars 1313 thing, I always freak out.
What?
That,
13?
that
What's
game
that?
will never get made. Have you never seen that trailer?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-mm.
No,
it's
no,
it's a canceled Star Wars game that looks amazing. It looks like
Mm.
Uncharted in space.
It honestly looks so good. Like, I wish they would do more things with Star Wars. Star Wars has so much potential.
They still
like,
can.
it's such
I
a
think-
massive universe with so much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Disney is also bad. You
No,
know?
I think
now that Disney owns them, they're going to produce as much content as possible.
Oh, no,
I
Nothing's
think-
gonna
I-
earn
I
them.
now that
hope
they
so.
did the original or the sequel trilogy, they can basically do whatever they want now. Because I felt like that was the 1st
Uh-huh.
order of business. We have to do a sequel trilogy, like we have to.
Mhm.
We just have to get that out of the way. And now they're probably gonna do Old Republic
Now they can do
stuff,
whatever the heck they want.
TV shows. Maybe they'll do like some Game of Thrones show on Disney Plus. I mean, that's what Mandalorian kind of is, right? And then,
Not Game
Not-
of Thrones-esque.
but just a high budget show.
Yeah.
For Star
Not
Wars.
even.
It's-
Whatever. Who cares? But yeah, no, I hope so. I hope they do more games. Like, I hope they make more Star Wars games.
Well, I think
that'd
that's
be a
the
lot of fun.
whole, the whole announcement that LucasArts is, or for the games division is going to be
Yeah.
Lucas Games Studios or whatever. Whatever. right?
Lucasfilms game. Lucasfilm games, yeah.
Lucasfilms Games Studios.
There's too many S's. There's too many
Uh,
S's.
Lucasfilm Game Studios. Yeah, so I think they're going to basically do that thing where, it's just going to be a conglomerate of different Star Wars games to come out. So it's going to be like PlayStation Studios, Xbox Game Studios, It's going to be like that.
Yeah.
So it's looking up for the Star Wars game franchises, especially because EA managed to not screw over a Star Wars game finally with Fallen Order. Who would have known? And they finally
Yeah.
make one right.
But then EA didn't make that one, did they?
They published it.
Ooh, they published it. Guys, we just had a whole argument about this.
Well, Respawn made it, and Respawn is a subsidiary of EA now. So
Yeah, but that means EA didn't make it. Because we had this argument about
yeah,
ZeniMax
but they could
2.
also decide, hey man, we're gonna put the shoot in multiplayer mode and loot boxes. Yeah, because we're EA. We
Yeah,
want
but
that.
Respawn still would have made the game.
Okay, anyway, this is not a gamers podcast. We're too.
We had this
sophisticated
whole
for
argument about
This is-
ZeniMax in the last
this is
podcast,
This is
dude.
not the gamers edition, bro. Okay.
Sigh.
But speaking of the Star Wars games or whatever, the thing I find funny is that so when Battlefront 2 came out, when it came out initially, everybody hated it because just how much integral microtransactions were to progression in the game, where like you literally needed to do loot boxes in order to get like an advantage in the game, right? Like let's say you want to play
Yeah.
as Darth Vader, you'd have to play for like 40 hours to get like his thing. Or you could just basically do the loot box and get him in like, I don't know.
What Neighbor's
Just
trying to
kinda
argue
like-
is that they should do that for the movies.
Yeah, if you want Darth Vader in the movie, $10 in. But
Oh man.
but basically, and then they had star cards. So even if you did manage to get Darth Vader, you'd be significantly weak without the star cards, which were found in the loot boxes. And so it's like a clear gameplay advantage. But anyway, somebody was complaining about this on the Battlefront Reddit subreddit back then, in like 2018 or 17. And then an EA rep or DICE rep basically like said
Oh,
this
yeah.
thing. He's like, "Oh, we were like trying to do that, you can have an advantage by progression. We wanted to make it that progression was allowed, and it had negative 600,000 karma."
Yeah. The
Bro,
most
it's the most
the
disliked
most
Reddit comment
downvoted Reddit comment ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We wanted to create a sense of satisfaction for the player in spending 70 hours grinding for one hero character or one villain character or whatever. Like the most downvoted comment on Reddit.
That's crazy. No, but
It's
that clearly
insane.
means like I don't think there's 600,000 people in the Star Wars Battlefront subreddit. So I feel like there's obviously people like following in on the train. But just
Yeah,
imagine
there's hype.
you're the customer support dude. Like, all right, I guess I have to answer this Reddit question. Just does it.
Uh-huh.
And you get the most disliked comment in Reddit history. Oh my god, dude, that's gotta be so sad. Because I looked up like the post. It's like an archive of like the most disliked comments ever. Like most of them are just dislike this comment for like a valid.
Yeah.
reason.
Okay. So the Star Wars Battlefront comment has 683,000 downvotes. The next closest one has 88.9 thousand. So that's a margin of over or almost 600,000.
Yeah, but the 88.3 thousand one is from. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Thanos did nothing wrong one? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was like so. It was
That's
basically
so
the
funny.
no. It was
Oh,
the post
and it's
was
it's
like
okay. It's yeah. Okay, go ahead, Naimur. I'm looking.
yeah. The
at
post
what
is
to say what you're gonna
from
say.
what I think. The post is basically just like dislike to restore balance, right? Because the whole thing about
Yeah, it's
Thanos is so
upvote
much
the
balance.
post. It's upvote the post, but downvote OP's comment to help achieve
Exactly.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's why it has so many things, and that's with like most of the things on that list. So it's just funny
Yeah.
how collective Reddit is. It's like, I think that makes it truly special that you have to be so bad that you kind of transform the meminess of Reddit and have everyone just hate you. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. What would you say is the best social media? Personally, I would say Parler.
Shut up. Shut up.
Is that our transition?
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I kind of meant
Man,
meant it to
dude.
be.
I'm.
Does your mom still have her Parler? Like as a joke?
Yes, probably. I don't know. I didn't ask. I actually
How do you
don't
even
know.
access it, bro? You can't do anything.
What do you mean?
How do you even access Parler now? Because it's like the Amazon web servers are out.
Oh,
You can't download it
I have no
anymore.
idea. My mom downloaded not as like
Oh my god.
I mean, yes, as a joke, but she was more just curious about what other people were saying on it, right? Because that's like it's like at least when we had Twitter, all of these like. Okay, I'm not trying to be.
It's like, well,
political, 'cause I
that's
don't wanna
why
be
that's why I go
a
on
bunch
r
of, like,
conservative
stupid
every so
stuff.
often.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stupid stuff on Twitter, and it was out there because everything was just posted on Twitter, so you could find it. And now when it's on Parler, it's all tucked away, and so like sometimes you just want to go laugh at something, or you want to go see like what are they even talking about right now? What are their thoughts on this? And you go look, and it's all like conspiracy theories out the wazoo, and you're like, geez.
Yeah.
Man. So
I was gonna say one of the most upvoted comments is or one of the most downvoted comments on Reddit is on r/army, and the post is Trump cancels visit to U.S. cemetery because of poor weather, and the comment is the president needs to be able to respond to a nuclear attack. The others don't. And if that's not the
What?
stupidest thing I've ever read in my life,
It's like, so
right,
then why
like
does
he doesn't have
not
the
just
nuclear
stay?
detonation button with him at all times.
Or like, why
Exactly,
does he just
like-
stay there?
he
Always,
he has to
forever?
stay in the White House with his finger
Every
above
single
the red
day.
button.
Yeah, it's like what is going on? What?
But he can go to golf though. That's fine. He can go to golf.
Yeah, he can go to
He can go
Mar-a-Lago.
golf whenever
That's
he
fine.
wants. Yeah,
That's
whenever
chill.
he wants to. That's fine. That's fine.
Apparently, he's like really crushed that he lost the PGA tournament, which I didn't even know he was in the PGA tournament.
I
What?
know.
Well, like Tiger. Well, I don't know if he was with Tiger Woods, but it's like, what? Like, why is he in the PGA? It's just like the optics, bro. And you
Dude,
know,
he
like
plays
the football
golf
coach.
so much. He plays golf so much. He's convinced he's good.
Yeah, he's probably the dude that's like, yo, like if you lose against, or if you win against me, like no, you didn't. It's like
He's
just to
delusional.
pretend- Yeah, he's delusional. I don't know. It's just everything with Parler. I think it's very interesting. It's weird. I see. The thing I
Should
find
we
the most
explain
ironic,
what Parlor is for people who don't know?
Parler.
'Cause
I
there
will
are some
say it
people out
in
of
the
touch.
propaganda way so that
Yeah.
people can understand. No, I'm saying Parler is an unbiased social media network that does not moderate your use, does not have an agenda to take out what you have to say. Well, but really, it's a place for conservatives to whine about how much they're not available on Twitter now because they're like not conservatives, just neo Nazis, white supremacists, the whole shebang, whole 9 yards.
QAnon.
The conservatives are basically saying like it's like they're advertising it as like a conservative Twitter where they won't be banned for saying anything, right? And what do you know? Parler may not ban them, but the entire internet will. So they've gotten banned from. So they got kicked off the iOS App Store and they got kicked off the Google Play Store by both companies, and then Amazon Web Services, which hosts their servers, basically making it allowing you to use it in the first place, got rid of them too. Like they're like, we don't want anything to do with you. Well, I think workers and they were getting some blowback from workers, everybody else to like let go of them. But like all this stuff. So basically, overnight they went from this, and it was effectively getting really popular. Like a lot of people were storming in droves after Trump got banned from Twitter. That they were just going to Parler, and then once this happened, like they started noticing like there was a lot of like violent threats, like the App Store and stuff, like like they're potentially planning another attacks from the insurrection that happened in DC, and so it's pretty scary. But I think it's really ironic because this always stems up the conversation now. Is like, oh look, big tech is now controlling free speech. It's determining whatever. It's like these
That's
Republicans
stupid.
that go on Fox.
They're not. Free speech has never had to do with corporations. It's always been
He
from the
agrees
government.
with you.
Okay. I know.
One
I'm
sec,
not arguing against you. I'm just
know.
saying it's a stupid point.
I understand. No, but just I'm getting to my point here for a sec. The thing that's the most ironic and stupid to me is like when Charlie Kirk goes on Fox News or whatever, and he's just decrying about how much he's getting censored or whatever, like how they're getting they're like how they're being targeted and harassed, and this will be the they're trying to put us down and just hide their voice, right? They're just they're decrying about how much their voice, but they're saying this on a major news network where they have a huge platform to people.
They say
it's like
they
bro,
say
it's
it on
like
a conservative news, but they a published author with their own TV show says it on a conservative network that conservative voices are being.
Or it's like
Some of
you
them-
clearly have a platform, bro. It's like you're not
Yes.
getting silenced.
Some of them,
they keep talking about
I was
silence.
gonna
This I keep getting silenced, right? They keep saying I'm getting silenced, but they're yelling it at the top of their lungs on Fox News or
Yeah, I was
they
gonna
have
say,
these
some of them-
platforms.
Some of them have podcasts. Some of them have their own news channels. Some of them have their own YouTube
They
channels
have
where
New
they
York
produce news.
Times
It's just-
bestseller books talking about how
Exactly.
much they're getting silenced,
Yeah.
bro. Do you not see the irony in that? That is so stupid
Yeah.
to me.
I know.
It's so stupid, bro. It's like the thing where it's like, I'm moving in silence, the joke. It's not a joke, but it's like people on Twitter, they're like, I'm moving in silence while I make my millions, right? But they just yell about how much they're moving in silence. It's like,
Right.
moving in silence, but this is how y'all be, and it's just them screaming about how they're moving in
It's
silence.
it's like Trump supporters say that they're the silent majority, even though they're not silent and they've never been the majority.
Yeah, just vote wise, dude.
Yeah.
look at the votes. Anyways, I also want to point out. Oh man, I was gonna say something and it was related, and now I'm totally forgetting.
I don't know. I think there are some legitimate concerns in the fact that
Oh, I know what I was gonna say.
that big tech can control this, right? Like even though it is theoretically to something that makes sense, where it's neo-Nazis and white supremacists and acts of domestic terrorism, they're trying to prevent that. It is scary though that just these big tech companies can go together to just force out the little guy, right? And it's like I'm not trying to give Parler like a good name or anything, or not trying to at least, but I'm just saying it's like, what if it's not Parler? Like, what if it changes eventually to becoming a smaller social media thing, right? Like, how Facebook started from scratch.
Well, if
right? And then it grew up.
if domestic terrorists stop organizing terror attacks on it,
no, this
then
is not
they
what I'm
can
saying.
be relisted
I'm just
on
saying,
the App Store.
theoretically, doesn't big tech have the authority to just basically cancel out a small up and coming social media, no matter what it is, not unmonitored.
Well,
let's say it's moderated, all that stuff.
Yeah, Naimur, they have the same authority to do that the same way if you're holding a gun to somebody's head. You have the authority to kill them.
No,
It's
I'm just
like,
saying
yes,
it
they can
effectively
do
gets
it.
Bad
rid of
thing.
They
I'm just saying
can do it, but they don't. They're not gonna do it.
But you don't know that though. What if there's a up and coming social media network?
That was the
I'm not saying
worst
Parler was that
analogy,
thing.
Luke. Because when else do you have a gun up against
Yeah.
somebody's head? For?
Okay, listen.
Yeah.
It's like saying I have a gun in my pocket or in a holster. It's like I could at any time pull it out and kill 50 people, but I'm not gonna.
But you're more
Probably.
likely to if you have one.
Yeah, only
Yeah, that's
because you have it.
That's a very simple. That's honestly a conservative mindset to look at it, Luke. I don't know, man. But it's kind of because they could theoretically do this with, let's say, there's an up and coming
Hey,
social
Naimur,
media
you know
platform.
that you know what's funny is that you're arguing the conservative platform for this entire argument, and I'm arguing the liberal one.
I don't see why you don't see how this is an issue, because I feel like that is partially an issue. Again, I'm not saying what Twitter did in suspending Donald Trump or anything was wrong. I'm just
Oh
saying
no!
the fact that
Listen.
tub-
I do think
big tech
I don't
has
think that
such a
this
hold on
specifically
this.
is an issue. I don't think that this specifically is an issue. I do think big tech needs to be broken up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. But it's like
He's not
Yeah.
saying, he's not talking about, I think what Namer's getting at, he's not talking about Parler or any of these platforms in specific. He's just referring to how big tech is monopolizing itself.
yeah.
When we
It's
talk
they're
about big
basically-
tech, we're just talking about big
they're
tech
destroying
corporations.
competition by working together. You know what I mean? Like Twitter's not even profitable. Like, what if some social media comes around that is profitable, effectively wiping Twitter away from business, right? And so
Or,
what will happen? Just anything, It's
How
like
how is Twitter profitable?
they're not. They lose money.
Like, how do they
year in,
make?
year out.
How do they make money? How do they
don't.
ever make money?
The stock market.
They don't have ads.
Yeah, the
They
stock
don't,
market.
I guess.
I mean, they've been
guess
they've
so.
been slowly doing, you know, like promoted tweets and such. So I guess that's how they're making their money
Mhm.
now. But it's not nearly as much money as like, you know, Facebook's making with their monetization.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, on the topic of big tech, I just wanted to say real quick, another example of like a very specific example of why these tech companies have a monopoly and why it's bad for us is the simple fact that a lot of service providers, like cell providers for your phone and all of that, they have specific districts. They agree on specific regions that they will like primarily focus on. So they have no competition in an area. They have no reason to have faster internet speeds. That's why when you're in a city, you're likely to get slightly faster internet speeds than if you're just in the middle of nowhere or in the suburbs, because there's a drive for competition. There's more overlap with those regions. So you could get Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, and now you have actual competition between them where they have to actually speed up their internet speed so that they are faster. But in a lot of places, it's not like that. And it's like, Here's my hot take of the day. Capitalism does not breed innovation. It breeds one innovation that you then remain the same for the rest of your life. You try to keep it the same for the rest of your life as much as possible because you can charge people more for it. If you try to make it faster,
argue it
or any of
breeds
these
competition, but the problem is capitalism has never had this much success on this scale before, right? On different aspects, right? Like Amazon has never been, like, you know, this is the first time a company has truly been this successful where they can literally reach any part of the world they choose to in a second, right? It's like, you know, back then, like in the industrial age, you were confined to the country you were in, most likely.
Guys, Amazon can dehumanize workers across the globe in a second, in a millisecond.
I mean, yeah, they can. But
mean,
yeah,
they can. No, he's
this
not
is
wrong, they
capitalism
can.
to the reach we've never seen before, right? Like, this is the beginning, or it's like, you know, this is like, you know, tech, it's really just about scaling, right? Like, think about Facebook. They have no margins because they just make profit, right? It's like their goal is just to make sure the servers go to all these locations in the world. And it's like, I don't know. I also don't understand why this is the hill that Republicans are choosing to fight with, you know, like Charlie Kirk and stuff. Because, you know, it's not like these are just conservatives. These are people who, they're domestic terrorists, right? They're white supremacists or neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
Like, these are people that are banned for a reason, and they're choosing to incite violence and, like, you know, saying these threats of, like, wanting, you know, to do terrible things to political figures and stuff like that. And I just don't understand why nobody on Fox is talking about that. You know, like, the Fox host is even like, yeah, my followers, I had 1 million, and then the next day, I had 922,000. It's like, okay, so 80,000 of your followers were white supremacists, Nazis, conspiracy theorists, QAnon. Like, you're openly admitting that. Like, why is nobody talking about that, bro? Like, that's
I know.
the issue here. It's not the fact that it's like an agenda by Twitter or anything. It's the fact that they're trying to get rid of these things like they should have done years ago. Like, you know, with QAnon and stuff like that. Why do we have senators who believe in QAnon in Congress? I don't understand that. Like, why? Why is this is conspiracy theory?
If you just look at QAnon from a sane person's perspective, it's so ridiculous. It's just completely the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Not to mention, it's apparently very anti-Semitic. Lots of other horrible things that I thought we got rid of about, 60, 70 years ago. I mean, not got rid of, but you know what I mean. I thought we were like realizing we should be over that stuff quite a while ago, but apparently not. I wanted to say on the topic of hypocrisy and all of this stuff and Parler and people getting banned off Twitter.
Well, I just don't understand why Republicans are choosing to die on this hill. You know what I mean? It's just like...
Well, yeah, I was going to say, can I just insert this one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I find it ironic that conservatives, just in general, like to, they don't like regulations on any economy, on any corporation, blah, blah, blah. But then suddenly when a private business decides to ban people for not following their terms of service, which they agreed to, now they want to limit what corporations can do with laws that tell them, well, you can't infringe on blah, 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 because... But they're private companies. They're private companies. Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't be flip-floppy with your beliefs. Like, I don't know.
But see, then they're all for banning people from websites or cake shops or whatever because they're gay. That's okay.
Exactly. It's not...
Putting other people in danger? Putting other people in danger? You can't do that because he agrees with me. That guy he agrees with my political points. You can't kick him off because he's threatening senators. You can't do that. Or because he's spreading a deadly disease, like intentionally. You
I was also watching this like from Hassan Parker's thing. Like he was just like reacting to it, like that Fox News interview with the Charlie
Mm-hmm.
Kirk. Or no, it wasn't even Charlie Kirk. It was the CEO of Parler, and he was just talking about it's like, it's unfair. These things that are happening in Parler that were banned, or like that like got Parler shut down. It's like these posts are still up on Twitter of screenshots of them. It's like, okay, so you're admitting that it's wrong what's being banned, but you're mad that it's not being banned on Twitter because they're showing what's wrong with Parler. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So you're like admitting it. Like, I don't understand.
Once again, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like saying, "Oh, well, Twitter's not blah blah blah, all this horrible stuff." They still have it up, and now they're taking us down for having it.
You need moderation.
And it's like,
you need moderation. I think people have realized that very fast with YouTube, right? With the adpocalypse, with everything happening, right? Like, you have to have moderation. And I just think it's really stupid to be like, it's with an agenda or whatever. It's like, what do you do when your president's, or like the current president is effectively going, when his agenda is just against reality, right?
Yeah.
You're literally decrying everything that's reality. So it's like...
But guess what? Most of those people don't realize or won't accept that. So
yeah, I just don't
it doesn't
understand
really matter
that,
how much
man.
we
It's
talk
like,
about it.
I don't know, if this happened in the Bush administration, when you had the opposing party decrying an election or like democracy's legitimacy, bro, like this would be like like a lot of people would lose their minds, right? Like conservatives would be so mad. Like, let's say let's say John Kerry's team, right, had decried voter fraud, because that you could say argue grounds for that, or no, not even that, just like in the fact of like
do you mean Al Gore?
Maybe Al Gore. I'm just saying because in 2004,
You're just trying to create a hypothetical scenario.
in 2004, John Kerry could theoretically have won the election if like 50,000 people in Ohio had voted for him instead.
Yeah.
So he could have won that, but he wouldn't have won the popular vote. That's the thing. So, like, imagine if like Al Gore or even John Kerry like argued, the legitimacy of the election, voter fraud, all these things like that, right? And like, he basically got his supporters to storm the Capitol building without like saying be violent.
Imagine
right?
how.
So, like that would be like, especially like post 9/11, like people would lose, like people that would be like grounds for like a civil war, genuinely. I think.
Right.
See, that's why I asked you guys in our group chat. Like, do y'all think this is like the Red Scare? Like this will spark our generation's Red Scare?
I don't know, bro, because you have
Like,
people
against-
both
I
on the
wish.
left and the right quoting George Orwell. And I think that's the funniest thing in the world. Like that
I know.
people on the right think that George Orwell is like this capitalist like genius, that's anti, or it's like
Anti-communist or whatever. It's just.
It's so stupid. I don't understand that. It's like
I
they're
wanna
saying
say,
it's
Luke,
Orwellian.
Yeah, I want to say.
Yeah, it's
I would say
Orwellian
that-
because. Yeah. No,
No,
I was
you
gonna
can
say it's
finish it.
Orwellian
Finish
because
the joke.
it's Orwellian because a private corporation is using their freedom of speech to not be used as a mouthpiece for political means.
Exactly.
Orwellian is when I don't get my Twitter because I say it.
Yeah.
Dude, I love those memes so much. I just wanted to say, I would 100% say this is our generation's, like, 9/11 compared to, like, just shock value-wise. Like, just shocking, like, suddenly, like, this is truly horrifying.
Oh yeah, no. When the
Except
Capitol,
for...
yeah.
Yeah,
ahead.
well, we can talk about how horrifying it was in a second. Except for the fact that when it happened after 9/11, everyone was in agreement, this is horrible. This cannot happen
Yeah.
again. And today, there are still people defending domestic terrorists who walked into the Capitol with handcuffs, clearly intending to kidnap,
Handcuffs
torture,
and guns.
who knows what.
5
To
people.
our
That's
senators,
disgusting.
to our congressmen and women, what the hell? That is
Yeah.
ridiculous. The fact that you can defend that. There were 2 pipe bombs, potential pipe bombs found, a ton of Molotov cocktails.
Not
and the fact that you
potential
were
pipe
saying
bombs.
this is
They
a
were pipe
peaceful-
bombs.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
if they actually confirmed they were.
Yeah.
They were.
Claim
No, they
that
were.
This is a peaceful protest. That
Yeah,
is
but you had some
absurd to
bad
me. You are
bunches
living in
trying
a
to spoil the rest
horrible
of it.
reality. You're living
You
in
had some bad
sorry,
people who
a
trying to
fake
spoil the
reality,
bunch.
right?
Yeah. You,
Bad apples spoil the bunch.
Yeah, you have some bad people, bad actors spoiling the bunch. It was that Antifa, you know?
Mhm.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's like, and then like I hear like the arguments like, oh, but BLM, they broke into the state house or like into a state house in Wisconsin, or they went into an empty precinct and took it over with like Chaz or whatever. It's like an empty precinct compared to the country's capital with senators in it is like two completely different things, bro.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. It makes no sense to me. It's like,
And also,
then,
I want to say, Namer, I didn't make a video about this, but I was going to. The fact that it is a false equivalence. You can't compare the BLM protest to what happened at the Capitol the other day, because the inherent thing they are fighting for, whether you agree with it or not, the thing they believe they are fighting for is completely different. For African Americans, they genuinely believe that they are oppressed in this nation, and I agree with that sentiment. I genuinely think that is the case, where we have a systemic racism going on. But even if you don't disagree with that, at least they believe they're fighting for a human rights issue, right? What you have with the protest, or whatever you want to call it, the riot at the Capitol, is these people who have genuinely been led astray by our president for the intent of overthrowing our democracy. Like, his entire goal, if you can't see that, I'm sorry, you're blind to what's going on. But his entire intent was to send these people, and they went in there with the intent of stealing the election, or I guess stopping the steal. But they have no faith in our government to do what it's meant to do, to correct for mistakes and things like that. I don't know.
It's so ironic, right? It's like these people, they're not seeing, the whole point of the "don't tread on me" like idea of America and like liberty or death. It's like, the idea, which I can understand, the idea of American democracy is that in the Constitution there's places where you have the right to a rebellion if you believe your government is becoming a tyranny, right? Like that's a thing, a fundamental thing in the American Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, right? So it's like, I understand that, but the problem is like, how could you be so wrong in your idea of that? Because that's meant for stuff like the Civil Rights Movement, right? Where the government is clearly going against the idea of a certain people and belittling them and like not giving them the rights that they're owed, right? Like that's tyranny, right? Like I understand that.
Right.
What you're fighting for is authoritarianism, is fascism. Like how do you not understand that, right? You guys are the same people. Like I understand some of them are neo-Nazis, but there are people in there who generally is like, they're like equating like Antifa to like Nazis or something like that. It's like, no, bro. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing whatsoever.
Namer, what you're saying just reminded me of something, and I think it's very fascinating. With BLM protest and all of that, like you were saying, they have this right to rebellion because the government, at least in their mind, is oppressing them. But if you actually look at because they have these things like, okay, they're getting shot by police, their black neighborhoods are over-policed just in general, and all of this stuff, police brutality, blah, blah, blah. You can go on and on. The justice system is screwed over. For these white Trump supporters, what is oppressing them? They don't have anything that the government is doing to them. They just feel oppressed. Oh, I'm getting kicked off Twitter.
They genuinely think Biden's America will lead to socialism. And I don't even think half of them were alive when the Red Scare was around, bro. Like, I don't think most of them were alive.
That's the funny thing, too. If they genuinely lived, like, they haven't given a single example of something that is comparable to what the people in the black communities are experiencing, and for the reason they're doing their actions, right?
Well,
there's
Biden's
nothing
going to take all of their money. They generally think that. They probably think that Biden is going to
Okay, you're right. They are convinced that, but it's just
to everybody. They're going to make the same money as a heart surgeon. Like the heart surgeon's going to make less money. Like any innovation from capitalism is going to go away. They think Biden's the radical leftist. I saw this like mashup of like the debate with Kelly Loeffler and Raphael Warnock, and like she says like radical leftist Raphael Warnock like 20 times or like 10, 15 times in that thing. Like, every time she brings up his thing, it's just radical leftist. It's like, bro, like I don't understand. Like also, how is a leftist radical? Like I understand like yada yada.
Yeah.
Like how is a leftist radical? I don't understand that. It's like the thing like the funniest thing I took away from when Biden won in November, like there was like a dude in New York. He was like screaming. He's like, we're going to give these Republicans what they deserve. And they're like, like free health care and a better education system. And they're like,
I know.
It's like, bro, like, how do you not see that? It's like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's like, like sometimes I wonder, it's like, why can't I just be selfish, like just like not happy with others, envy and success. Like, why can't I just be,
that would just make life so much more simple.
If I just cared about myself, like honestly, like just like not caring.
If you cared only about yourself, like,
Like why can't I just like have to care about other people's?
We know people that admit to the fact that the reason their family or they are conservative is because it's just what's in the best interest for them and their family, which is kind of upsetting to me.
It's more understanding than the people that are conservatives for family values, right? Where it's like they've been brainwashed into believe it's for family values, right? It's like, the Christian
or
conservative
Christian
household.
values or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And
yeah,
What
I
makes
can.
me, well, you know what always tickles me when people say that like,
Oh, it tickles you?
free healthcare would actually, what tickles me, like in the armpits, what people would say like, oh, free healthcare will raise taxes. You'll have to pay more in taxes, when that's just not true. Think about
Yeah,
how
they
much you're
don't
paying in
know.
health insurance.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, it's
out
not-
of like deductibles.
And you're also,
and
by
stuff.
the way, for people who don't know, when you pay for health insurance, you're also having to cover the cost of a really complex administrative system, one that is not
Yeah.
Centralized,
When that
nationalized
only
in
exists
any way.
because we have to pay for health insurance.
Exactly. If there
Well,
was,
it's 'cause-
if your the amount you paid in health care coverage or whatever insurance, health insurance, if you just pay that in taxes instead, you would get so much more out of your money because at least the government can create a standardized system for it. I
Yeah.
don't think people understand that.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, but what about the wait times? What about the wait times? What about the wait times? Okay, first of all, they prioritize things in these socialist countries. They prioritize things to where if it's urgent, you will get it in time. In fact, you'll get
It's like
it as
it's
soon
like
as
with
possible.
my ear. No, I was telling my mom about this. With my ear, like my ear surgery, I had a non-growing benign tumor in my ear.
Right.
I said, "Listen, I don't need to get this next week. Like, like I could have waited a year for this. Like, it
Yeah.
would have been fine. I wouldn't have cared. But if I broke my arm, or like if I like got hit by a car, or if I was, is like I could have gotten that for whatever. I don't know what I'm trying
No,
to
I
say
know what you
with
mean,
this.
but Luke, I
Yeah,
think what
'cause that
you're
happened
getting at
to
is
me, yeah,
is
with my
like
mom,
first
yeah.
come first serve is what the
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
what we currently live under, where it's like it doesn't make sense that because Luke showed up at the doctor at like Monday with a problem in his ear, and they're like, oh well, okay, then let's schedule a surgery for a month from now. It doesn't make sense that he gets priority over somebody who needs a kidney transplant. And I know it's a slightly different thing because you have to find a donor and all that, but a kidney transplant, and they have to schedule it months out because they can't find a kidney transplant. They can't do all of these things. Namer, talk about your mom's arm being broken.
Well, no. It's like my mom. She
He was
she
just
fell
bringing
from
it up in
a couple
relation
years
to
ago.
what
She
you
fell
said.
from
Yeah, I
a
know.
ladder, and I didn't have a license back then, so I couldn't really drive. And like my sister was like, she was fortunately visiting then, and like if she wasn't there, like I don't know what would have happened because not only that, like I called 911, the ambulance came. Right, my parents spent like over $1,000 on that ambulance, and they had insurance too. They had really bad insurance.
Yeah.
Granted. My dad was a cheapskate when it came to that initially, but. Yeah, like my dad, he was one of those people when Obamacare was around, he'd rather pay the fine than actually get health care because he thought it was cheaper. And he was one of those people, right? And so it took my older brother yelling at him to be like, why don't we have health care? Like, if something happens to any of us, like, this is like the cost of a house.
Yeah.
And then he finally did that, but he got us the lowest health care. And like, I could see that like up in center. It's like how much money my parents had to pay for that. My mom, she had to like, my dad he was like out of the state, and like he had to come back and like tend to like, everything. And so it's like, stuff like that. It's like, unfortunately my parents, like I would say we're pretty good financially, at least stable somewhat, right? Like we don't have to worry. Like my parents were not like that beforehand, but like we're in a time in our family where it's like, we're relatively okay. We don't have to necessarily worry about major things, but like, let's say we weren't, let's say this was like 10 or 15 years ago, or like in 2008 or something, when my dad lost his job from the recession, right? It's like stuff like that. It's like, what would happen? It's like it's genuinely dangerous.
Yeah, I want to on like to piggyback off your whatever you're saying. I'm trying to think. And
it's like
late at night, and it's hard
and
to
the thing
think.
I hate is like it's like that's on us because it's the bad decisions that poor people make. You know what I mean? Or it's like it's the bad, like people are poor because they made bad decisions to make them continually be poor. It's like that's not true. It's also about timing.
Yeah,
it's about
people
like all
push
these
that
different
into-
things, right? It's like,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. For somebody in poverty or somebody near the poverty line, an emergency medical scenario could put you below the poverty line. Could genuinely put you into
I was
poverty.
gonna say,
could
like-
make you homeless. Could do all of these things because that's how expensive our system is with the current. Like, yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Luke.
I was gonna say there are these stories of like people with like the highest grade insurance. They have a high paying job. They have all this money saved. They get diagnosed with cancer. They have to go through chemo. They lose everything. So you don't have to be. You don't even have to be like hovering above the poverty line. You could be like in the upper class, and you could lose, or upper middle class, and you can lose everything because of some medical news. That's so ridiculous. Why should people be tossed to
you
the
have to pay
curb
for every
because they get
treatment and all-
diagnosed with
yeah.
cancer? And like I was talking to this, or I didn't actually make this argument to my dad, but like his best friend at the beginning of the coronavirus, his best friend had lost his job, right? And he was the only worker in the house, right? Like we argued one night at dinner about universal healthcare. Not like an argument, but it was a discussion about universal healthcare.
Yeah.
And then he was using or I said what if I got hit by a car? And he said, "Oh, my insurance would cover it." And I didn't really argue anything else. I was like, okay, whatever. But then I thought about it later. It's like, what if, my friend, who's my dad's best friend's son, got hit by a car? He didn't have insurance then. They would have had to pay for everything.
His dad was out of a job. Yeah.
Because his dad didn't have a job. Yeah. Why should that happen? Why should people go bankrupt because something happened to them? That's so ridiculous. And it's so inhumane to me.
Well, it's just like, how does
especially when it doesn't
works
have
then?
to.
It's just there's so much bloatware, right? It's like, capitalism is innovation, quote unquote, right? But it's like, again, I'm not like a socialist
capitalism is administration and
yeah
cruel.
He agrees with you. He agrees.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily a socialist either. Like, I'm not a socialist. Like, I don't believe that stuff either. I think it's
I don't either.
dumb to an extent.
I think it's too far.
But I think
definitely.
when it comes to this stuff, it's like, you talk about universities, right? They haven't necessarily gotten better in education, but they've almost doubled in price over the past 20, 30 years. And then and completely going over the rate of inflation. And then on top of that is I saw this tweet about this woman or something. She was saying something about how a vial of what's that thing with an EpiPen or whatever, right?
Insulin. You're talking about
insulin? Yes, insulin. A vial of insulin was $20 20 years ago, and now it's $78 or something like that. Or no, it's not even. It's $200 now, something like that.
Right.
It's and it hasn't changed. It's in the same packaging. It's in everything's the same, but it just went up in price in the U.S. I don't even understand that. That's so
just the U.S.
so
too.
cruel. Imagine if I had something like that, man. It's if I had something where I needed an EpiPen. That's so cruel, bro. That is genuinely. I don't know how anybody could look at that like that.
No, conservatives and Republicans, by arguing against universal health care and stuff, are letting people die.
Yeah.
They are advocating that people should die because they're poor.
Yeah. Or it's if you want to talk about capitalism, right? Let competition take form. Let smaller pharmaceutical companies or something come in to where they can make a cheaper product, right? But
then they're not going to let that happen because they're too busy.
Exactly, because they're going to
language sucking the of these big corporations, right?
Or for better terms,
I'll be able to cut that. That's fine.
Yeah, for better terms, getting lobbyist money from these pharmaceutical companies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's they're getting money from all this stuff.
That's another thing. Lobbying the government in the form of cash should be banned. It's corrupt. It's corruption. It's bribery. That's it.
It is bribery. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Maybe having researchers go in. That's what lobbying should be. Is having researchers from a company go in and make an argument to a Congress or to an elected official. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
That's what it is by definition. It shouldn't be giving campaign contributions.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's bribery and corruption, and it needs to be outlawed.
Really quickly.
Anyway,
I want to go back to how we were talking about how people in poverty or people close to poverty, or just anyone, you can get put into poverty because of our current healthcare system. Have you guys heard the stories of people who have, because of their medical diagnosis, they have to have two kinds of medicine? Maybe they have diabetes and I don't know, an allergic reaction or whatever, who knows? Two types of medications for two different things. Yeah. If they don't get both medications, they die. But they don't have enough money to pay for both of them. So they have to make the difficult decision of which one's going to kill them first. Heart disease or this other thing. It's that is absurd to me. You're hoping to live to the 20 more years by picking this medicine over that one just because you can't afford both of them. That just seems I said, in a world where we can afford that, where we can just rearrange the system we currently have, that seems inhumane.
Or even worse, they have to decide which disease will kill them less painfully.
Yeah.
That
quality of life
that's
type
so
stuff.
yeah.
People are letting this happen. It's so, to me, it's so morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
Is that they're just doing this because corporations say they should.
Yeah.
And
it's I'm kind of tired of this whole idea. Not idea, but I've seen have you seen this it was a viral video earlier in the year or in 2020 where it was this congresswoman. She was basically on a Zoom call and she was just basically, she had a whiteboard. She was doing simple math showing she was showing this is the price of your drug.
I'll look her up for people who don't know. I feel like Luke probably has
this
seen
is the
her.
price of your drug in like 10 years ago. This is the price now. And it's like more than double or something. He's like, now,
Yeah.
did it get better? And he's like, no, it didn't, or whatever. She's like, so then why is it like this? And yada. She's like basically like, you know, like owning this dude, right? It's like one of the rare cases where libtard owns capitalist. You know what I mean?
Her name is Katie
yeah.
Porter. Her
Katie
name
Porter,
is
yeah.
Katie Porter. She's
Is
amazing.
she a Democrat or is she a Republican? I assume
yes,
Democrat.
Wait, is
I
she the one
guarantee
that had
she
that?
is,
Is
but
she the
you're
one
all
that
over
had
that.
that whole scandal
I don't know.
What?
where her photos were leaked?
No, I don't think
You
so.
know,
Luke.
wink,
We're
wink,
talking about.
wink, wink photos. No, definitely not. Never mind.
Yeah.
I know. I'm telling you, no,
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 no.
definitely not.
No, I'm talking about. I don't remember what, but it was some congresswoman got like her nudography got leaked, and it was like pictures of her like, you know, engaging
no
We
in
don't have to describe
intercourse
it. We
with.
don't have to describe
Yeah,
it.
Another
Luke, you
woman.
don't have to go
Yeah,
any
okay.
further with this because this is not important to what we were talking about.
Yeah,
You're right.
But,
yeah,
um,
I apologize.
it's just like, you know, those videos are entertaining and stuff, but did it accomplish anything necessarily? Not really, because there's more
Unfortunately not.
there's more congressmen with pharmaceutical lobbyists on their side than not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We need this fixed, bro. And there's so many issues that plague this country, and it's just so annoying
know.
that some of them just don't even. A lot of people just don't think they're issues to begin with. Like, you know, right now to Republicans, their biggest worry is free speech, not the fact that people are dying because of COVID, which is still going around, by the way, or just the idea of the healthcare system being corrupt, or that people are going into debt by just going to college, right? Like,
Yeah.
trying to receive an education.
Which, by
that
the
they
way,
can go
if
into
you don't
debt.
think if you're like, well, college is an option, you're not forced to go. Excuse me, your options are either go to college and get a potentially decently paying job that you can pay off your college debt in 60 years, or work fast food for the rest of your life. If you don't see that there's clearly a bias in this where you basically have to go to college if you want to do anything with your life, it's like, that's absurd. Do you know what I mean?
See, I'm not
trying to get
I'm not
at this
opposed
point
to,
where
like,
it's
you know, even fast food. I think this pandemic has showed how important fast food workers are to society.
No, for
I
sure.
think
I'm not.
they
I'm
should
not
definitely be
discounting
paid.
that. Yeah.
No,
don't
yeah,
wanna
I know,
discount that.
but the fact of the matter is they're not paid, right? Like in Texas, minimum
Yeah.
wage is $7.50, bro. That is so low.
Seven
Genuinely,
twenty-five.
like, $7.25 exactly. And then I remember
Yeah.
I went to Minnesota a couple years ago, and I think minimum wage was like $12. It's like
Yeah.
this is the same country, by the way, except two different
Yeah.
areas. See, this is the big thing.
That's why-
too, is
Okay,
that-
listen. I think the idea
By the
of
way,
federalism.
sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick
Go
on
ahead.
minimum wage. I'm pretty sure minimum wage, as it is right now for most states, is not even a livable wage. You can't live off of it.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of these people working 2 jobs. So,
And that's what
anyways,
minimum
go
wage
ahead.
has to or should be, is a livable wage. That's what the whole concept was created was for. Is it should be a
Like,
livable
then
wage.
what's the
that you can
point?
live
Yeah,
off
what's
of.
the point if you're not? Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead, Luke.
I was gonna say that the
Or
concept
what
of
you-
federalism, as it exists right now, is outdated, and even probably was outdated in the first place because it caused the Civil War. Like, the structure of
Yeah.
our government caused the Civil War, right?
To a certain
And,
degree,
like-
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Not to a certain degree, it caused the Civil War. Period.
So you're saying slavery
Like-
was an essential cause of the Civil War? Hot take.
No, I'm saying that the idea of
Exposed.
federalism,
Liberal?
the idea of
Sit
federalism,
down.
led to
Sure.
The-
If we
the
didn't have a
arguments
federal
over slavery.
system
And the tension-
that was
and the
set up
tension
way it
rising
was,
over slavery.
then, yeah.
One at a time. One at a time.
I was just
it's
saying,
like saying the cause of death was this, but the mechanism of death was something else.
Yeah, I
yes,
understand.
that's what he's getting at.
I just think in general it's the Republican Party. I'm not saying like the average Republican, like the Republicans in Congress and all these like in government, state governments and everything. They're just like they've been playing this whole game of politics so nastily, right? It's like Mitch McConnell. Think of all the bills that have died at his desk, right? Including that like the marijuana bill that was going to pass and stuff like that. And then it's like effectively like the idea is like even if you have a nationalized healthcare, there are going to be states that just effectively don't do it properly or if at all.
Yeah.
Basically just restrict it as much as possible to where they don't have to give as much
Yeah.
money towards it. Right?
See, that's why it
And-
has to
Which
be a
just hurts
federal,
it
like, on a
overall.
federal level. It has to.
No, I'm saying even federal,
Yeah.
if federal diverts it down to these state
No, I'm
governments, there
saying
are gonna be
that.
some
No, I'm
states-
saying it has to be implemented on a federal level.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for
Like-
sure. And I just think
That's why I.
Function
Yeah.
properly.
it's just the problem with America is nobody wants to say there's two different Americas, but I don't know. It's just like even in Texas, it's like if you look, like if you just travel like 100 or 200 miles in a different direction, the Texas you live in is gonna be completely different than like someone
Yeah.
else's, right? So it's like, even like even in the city centers of areas, let's say LA, right, or something, or like, San Diego. It's so beautiful and so nice. For every San Diego, there's like a small town in like Mississippi or something where they're below the poverty line. The literacy rate is below 90% probably, which is a lot. Like, even if it's like literacy rate should be like 99 to 100%. 100, like, I don't know.
In a developed
even below
nation.
that, it's like,
In a developed nation.
In a developed nation, exactly. And like, the
That
idea
should be the expectation. I'm not saying like, I mean, obviously I want that to be the literacy rate for the world. I'm just pointing that out, that's the world
exactly.
we live
And it's like, like there's such a disparity in these states and towns across America, right? Like there are generally probably some towns in America that rival third world countries, I think, genuinely.
Definitely.
And it's
They're
really
even worse
sad.
than most third world countries, if we're being honest.
Yeah, and it's even sad because those people are the ones that talk about how much they love America the most. And that, when I or Luke or Daniel or somebody decries a flaw in the American government system, will call us, like, say, if you don't like it, then just leave. This is the best place on earth. This is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're the most
And
nationalistic
little do they
piece
know
of-
they're getting screwed over by their
They're being
own
robbed.
system.
And it's so sad,
Yeah.
That's more than anything. It's like, they just have such a lack of information, and they've been feeding this crap by the Republican Party for years that, like, what they're doing is in the best interest of them, but it's not. And it's just like they're just being robbed before their eyes, literally in front of them. Like, I'm sure there's probably some of them donate money to Republican legislatures too, and stuff like that. I don't know. This has become a very political podcast. Should we shift topics?
Well, I also
definitely has.
Well, real quickly, I have a few things to finish up with. You were talking about how they were being robbed. Not to mention the people they're voting into office, who sometimes there are times where Republicans have a majority in some way or another, like in their own state or even in like the Senate recently, or my point is, the people they're voting into office have the power to and do these things where they enact things like Trump's tax cuts, which I don't know if enough people know this. I don't know how the Republican Party can claim to be like for blue collar workers, like the party for all these people who, and yet their tax cuts put a higher burden on people in the lower, like basically they're tax cuts for the rich. They place the burden of taxes on
ridiculous.
people who
Like
are
I
blue
said,
collar workers.
like I
It's
said.
how can you not see the contradiction there? Yeah.
Like I said, the Republican Party sucks the of wealthy people. That's their entire platform. You have more than $2 million? I'm gonna get on my knees right now and unzip your pants because I'm gonna
we don't have to. We
get
don't
in
just
some
not
nice.
do that.
Yeah,
dirty
look,
stuff.
it's just this comparison is too far.
It's just so maddening because like it's so corrupt. The Republican Party is so corrupt to me.
Well, I
And
think
to-
two different
to-
sides think of themselves as patriots too, when combined with that, right? Like those people that stormed the Capitol and like broke in, they think they're patriots. They think they're the ones that fight
Because
for
they're
freedom and
deluded.
patriots.
Because they're deluded.
Whereas
They're
and
insane.
They think that police officer who's a hero who diverted that crowd away from the senators when the senators were literally in that room, or a lot of senators were in a room nearby.
Yeah.
Or something, or they were in the Senate floor nearby. Like he diverted them by himself. That dude's a hero. That dude's a patriot. He's the true
Absolutely.
patriot.
Yeah.
Not those people who are just storming this Capitol to begin with, and they just don't think that, right? And it's like they think, I think Philip DeFranco said it pretty well. It's like where it seems like the American flag has been synonymized with one side lately because of nationalism and stuff like that, which is just. It's just so sad, It's like I think the idea of being an American is not the idea of recognizing that your country's the best on earth. We're just saying that. I think going with America's, with how America is, it's you have to not only do you accept the great things about it, but you have to accept its shortcomings. And you have to be responsible for them. You got to make it better, bro. Because if it's not better, then you're just lying to yourself. And these people are probably just deep down in denial. They don't want to admit that America is not good right now. And it's probably worse off
Even
than when
subconsciously,
Obama.
maybe they don't know, but subconsciously they are.
They probably deep down know, but they don't want to admit it to themselves, right? That maybe, just maybe, America's worse off than it was when Obama was president. Maybe Donald Trump didn't fulfill this whole big plan of making America great again.
Yeah.
Which,
It's like
we're not even going to talk about the fact that he says again as if that there was a point where we were great, fantastic. Anyways. Naimur, you were reminding me of something that we don't have to talk about this at all, but I was just fascinating. The comparison, the idea that you're making where it's like you can like love your country and still want to make changes to it. Okay, that's a weird way of wording it. Because
you have to accept its shortcomings as long with its greatnesses. You have to
Exactly.
be
That's
responsible
what
for
I
it.
was about to
Yeah.
say. I think a lot of people look at love the incorrect way. With a relationship, they're like, I just have to accept every single thing about this person, or they have to be perfect. They create a perfect image for these people, and it's like, that's who they are. And the second that image is broken, they can't cope with it, and the relationship falls apart. And what I think the best relationships do is accept the shortcomings and acknowledge them and support people. And, like, in a lot of cases where one person has shortcomings, you fill that gap and you support them in that, in that area. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that's interesting.
For those of you at home, Daniel made it to transition politics to love.
If there's not a Nuremberg style like trials
won't be.
at the end
There
of the,
won't be.
I know. I'm gonna leave the country. That's the fact.
No, you aren't.
That's just
I guarantee you aren't. That's
and
the
I
thing.
gonna and that
It
kind
is kind of
He
sad.
lied to
An
you. He
independent
got you. He got you. didn't he?
No, there needs to be consequences. Like I hate.
There need to be consequences because
Yeah, I hate the
otherwise people are gonna do it again.
Yeah, the fact that
Like-
Lindsey Graham and like Ted Cruz and Hawley are like preaching, we need to, and they're using Joe Biden's quotes against it, where it's like, we want this country to unite now. Trump has promised like a transition to power. It's like, bro, time for that was November like 8th, when Biden won in the first place, bro. Not 2.5 months later, when you guys went through every app or every means, and then finally went to a violent means to try and overturn this election, bro. Like, just so that he doesn't get impeached. Like that, the time has passed to become united. You know what I mean? When it comes to that, you need to, and not only that, it's like the idea of unity needs to come from accountability. If these people, if Ted Cruz, who has blood on his hands, if Josh Hawley, who has blood on his hands, just effectively nothing happens to their careers. They're like Ted Cruz might even run for president in 2024. That's probably why he's like trying to kiss up to Trump so much.
Yeah,
it's like effectively that they can like continue on with their lives and careers as politicians shouldn't be right. There needs to be an example made of this, right? Like, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley particularly, like, they need to like reap the consequences. Because I know like Ted Cruz is a smart dude. Like I'm not saying this like I'm not trying to like stroke his ego, but he's a like literally smart dude. He had like a high level IQ at Yale. Like he's been known to be like a super genius when it comes to like when he was a lawyer and he like talked to the Supreme Court. Like clearly he's not doing this because he doesn't understand that what he's doing is wrong. He knows what he's doing is wrong, but he's doing it to get his gains, right? It's like ill-gotten gains basically. Like he's trying to become president this way.
Yeah.
And he's convinced all of Texas that he's a true-hearted Texan, even though he's born in Canada. But I don't know.
And
as you can
he's
see,
the
as
Zodiac killer, and he's a Zodiac killer.
as a resident of Texas, I do not like Ted Cruz at all. I hate Ted Cruz.
I hate Ted Cruz. I hate him. He's such a weasel. I
know. He doesn't even.
He has no
doesn't even have a spine.
He has
bro.
no spine. He said Donald Trump like insulted his wife on live TV, and now he's getting on his knees for Trump. Like, come on,
Luke? I need you to stop making
Stop with the fellatio
analogies.
innuendos, bro.
You need to stop.
Like
Luke, every 5 minutes, you've made a like analogy for someone getting on their knees. Okay,
Yeah.
it needs to stop.
You
hear me?
I'm just having the surgery to get my 2 ribs removed, my 2 rib bones removed, so I can do it to myself. But but Trump insulted Cruz's wife and called her like ugly and a pig on live TV.
Nobody remembers that though.
Like,
the internet has such a short attention span now. Like nobody even remembers the last impeachment.
But why doesn't Cruz remember that? Why doesn't Cruz remember it?
Oh, I'm sure he does, but he just has to go on with his day. He knows. His wife probably knows too.
It's just
They
ridiculous
just have
to
to
me.
deal with it.
How?
But the fact
Okay,
of the
and
matter-
also, how does his wife stay with him after like not standing up to that?
Bro, like you
Like,
say
how
what you
can
will about
somebody-
Republicans, man? Those wives, they're pretty strong. They will take the heat just so that they're.
No, I'm just saying, how can somebody have
success,
so
bro.
little?
Luke.
Now I'm dogging her wife. Dogging his wife. How can someone have so little self-respect that she
Because,
stays
Luke,
with a
here's the
man
thing.
who
Here's the thing.
allows
Here's the
that
thing,
to
Luke.
happen to her?
What you don't understand is how much money Ted Cruz makes, and how much money he could make if he made president.
And his wife understands
idea-
the importance of his career, or just the importance of what she has to put through, right? Like if you've seen Vice, you see Liz Cheney, she's just like she's ready to go at the forefront, like just take on whatever, like in the again it's a movie, but she's a pretty strong woman that took a bunch of crap from people, or just like can stand on her own, right?
I just want to clarify, we're not saying she deserves to be insulted. She in no way Ted
Yeah.
Cruz's wife, does not deserve to be insulted. She does not deserve that disrespect. She deserves to have self-respect, but we're explaining why she might not, is what we're trying to say.
No,
It's not
I'm
even
not.
that,
Naimur,
or
see,
what
she
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing like. That's not what I'm saying. Like, of course, if you're in any public position, it doesn't even matter if you actually have power. You're gonna get like hate. But I'm saying, why would you stay with a man who like bends over backwards for the guy who called you ugly on live television?
Because he probably doesn't do that
Like, how would
behind
you
the
have-
scenes, Luke.
And,
I know
clearly
that.
forgotten
I
about
know
it,
that.
bro. Like you do. This is in
I know
2016,
that, but
again,
but the fact
they
that
don't
he's
really care
doing
that much.
this, but the fact that he's doing
No,
all
he
this
brought
for
this
Trump
level of politics,
is validation. Is validation that
Yes,
like
it's a
for
long
Trump.
con, dude. He's trying to become president in 2024. We all know this.
No,
dude.
I'm not saying that. No, Naimur.
Well, it's either that or becoming
I'm
senator,
saying-
right? Because he can't be both. He can't run for both. Because it's the 2024 is when his next Senate term runs
Luke,
out.
we know
Yeah.
what you're
No,
saying,
but Naimur-
and what you're saying is just wrong.
Yeah, Luke, you're very one-dimensional.
No, what
about
I'm
this. You're
saying-
like,
what I'm
like,
saying
we know
is
he
that-
shouldn't have done it, bro. But like he did. Whatever. This is how the game of politics works when it comes to the Republican Party. Like, we're not. Really
No,
that
I'm
surprised.
saying that.
Whatever.
First of all, she wouldn't even be in this position at all if they got a divorce. Like if she divorced it.
A divorce is
wouldn't need to worry about
oftentimes
his
most
career.
worse. Is worse of a scandal than calling out someone's wife, Luke, in the Republican culture.
Yeah, but whatever. I don't.
You're wrong.
I don't even care.
You're looking at it's a very
No,
You're
I'm just saying-
overthinking a situation
saying-
that is
I'm
literally
saying,
summed
why
up
would-
by politics.
yeah.
you're
I
overthinking
think
the
No, I'm
situation-
saying, but the fact that Cruz is sucking up to Trump so much is validating the fact.
Yeah, yeah, it's saying that you
Trump
can do
called his
that.
wife ugly. He's saying
No,
that
yeah,
he
sure.
agrees, and that
Yes, Luke.
that's something that he'll
We
just
don't
roll
disagree
over
with that.
Luke,
We don't
Luke,
disagree
yeah.
with that.
Luke, let's calm down for a
No,
second.
but no.
Luke,
Listen, I
we're not
agree that it is about
disagreeing with
politics.
you.
No,
Luke,
I
we're not
agree that it is
disagreeing.
about politics.
I just
the fact,
think right
listen,
now
Naimur.
you're just getting a little too angry. We gotta calm down.
Listen,
simmer down.
but
About
listen.
Ted Cruz.
yeah.
Listen, Naimur, I agree that it's about politics. That's why he's sucking up to Trump so hard. But I'm saying that why would his wife stay with him?
We've
Why
already
would she-
explained this.
Luke,
The money.
when we say why,
the
and then you
fame,
just repeat the
the
question.
power.
Like I don't understand.
But she
where to go
has
with
the
this.
money
We
now.
explained.
But she has the money now.
So, do you think it's a long con game all of a sudden, where it's just like, she's like, I'm gonna wait till my bank account reaches this much, and then I'm gonna leave. You know, it's like no, it's like, I don't know. We're not those people. We're not politicians. You know, a lot of politicians are spineless, even on the Democratic side. They're pretty spineless, right? Like I think
Yes.
it's also weird. It's like everybody's forgetting about the fact that all of the Democratic nominees were just absolutely demolishing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
Yeah.
at
Yeah,
the
no one
DNC
talks about
thing.
that. Yeah.
Nobody talks about that, right? Like Tulsi Gabbard did that. She like, I guess for lack of a better term, just completely owned Kamala Harris in the debate,
Yeah.
like exposing her, and then like like Kamala Harris even said that like she believed Joe Biden's accuser, right? Who was it, Tara Reid? Was that her name?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
she even said that stuff to Joe's face and like pretty much called him a racist and things like that to his face at the debate, and yet now she's
Mhm.
vice president. So it's like.
That's
Yeah.
okay. You know why? You know why nobody's calling him out on that? Because the only people that would watch just the Democratic debates are Democrats, and they've moved
Yeah.
past and they don't care.
Yeah, they've understand that we can't create another 2016 where it's like
Mm-hmm.
we can't just not want to vote for the person purely because we're gonna have to
Yeah.
suck it up and vote for the lesser of two evils. So at least I feel like the Democrats are slightly getting better at that now because they realize if the Democrats have a low turnout in an election year, that's how the Republicans win always.
Yeah.
Democrats have to always have a high turnout in order to always win. That's why Democrats always say vote. They don't say vote for who. They just say vote because they know if you
Yeah.
go vote, odds are you're gonna vote for a Democrat. 'Cause
Yeah.
just by the statistics of it, if more people
Just
vote, more
promoting,
people will vote
just
Democrat.
promoting voting in general, just marketing that you
Yeah.
need to go out and vote, is gonna get you just a larger proportion of people that are
Mhm.
voting Democrat.
Yeah,
Just because
So-
percentage wise, there are.
it's just really nasty how the game of politics has been played now. It's just people are yelling at each other, people are insulting each other, even at the whole debate stage, where it's like this is the time for your party to unite. You know what I mean? It's not the time for you guys
Yeah.
to just rip each other a new one. And like a lot of people now is that excuses. I don't like to talk about politics. You guys talk about politics too much. Blah blah blah. blah. But it's like, it's. I understand. Look, I understand. Don't get too
I know.
angry. But
It's
I just think to a degree with that stuff is this stuff does control our daily lives, and this could be a potentially game-changing presidency. Who knows? We can come back in 2 years, and say the complete opposite and say Joe Biden was just another one of those presidents that didn't really do much. That
Another
could very
lame
well be the
duck,
case.
yeah.
Like we don't know, but
No, there
you know,
is. See, there is. I've argued this before. There is potential for Joe Biden to be the next FDR or to
No,
be the
there's not.
next.
No, there isn't.
There
I
is
thought about it.
potential.
I don't think there is, dude. There's no way. He's not. He's pretty like you know. I think honestly, I think we could call this term a success if weed is legalized and and the people that were arrested and have weed on their arrest records they're effectively clean slate. I think that'd be a win, huge win.
Decriminalize marijuana. Yes.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. I mean, it's very easy now. You just have to put a vote in Senate because you know the House bill already got passed. You just now that you have a Democratic majority in the Senate, you just need maybe if Joe Manchin, who's arguably the most middle of the Democrats, says no, you just need one Republican. But I don't know if one Republican will vote to legalize weed. Like theoretically, I would want Ted Cruz to because he could see how much it would bring to the economy of Texas, but no. And so, I think that would be a success. I think wiping away student loan debt, that'd be a huge success. Joe Biden wants to do that, and it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Like, it genuinely is. I think that'd be a huge success. Just those two things. And then, healthcare would probably be another one. If they can get those three things done, I would consider this a success. Because, odds are, Joe Biden's probably not going to run again. Kamala's probably going to run in 2024. Most likely, she'll probably get the nominee. But the problem is, Southern white America just hates the idea of a woman as president for some reason.
Yeah.
A lot of them do. It's
Even
unfortunate.
Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, it's just there's a double standard. There's a lot of ingrained misogyny among these people. When a woman and a man could say the same.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Kamala will
even
get the
get to
nomination. I'm not sure Kamala will get the nomination because of that.
I don't know about the nomination. I think she'll get the nomination just fine. But I just think that when it comes to
Remember, why do you think they picked Joe Biden?
Yeah, because he's safe, a
poor white
white
America,
and a man.
He's safe white man. You don't think they're gonna do that again in 2024? You think they're gonna suddenly ignore that and just be like,
they need to definitely fix how they're getting their voters, right? I think they were just trying to get the voters they lost from Trump in 2016, which is fair. It's a short-term thing. That makes sense to do it short-term. But I think now it's you need to get those Cuban people you lost in Florida. You need to get those people back. You need to get a much greater presence of Latino people in Texas, right? That's how you're probably going to win the election. So if you get those Latino people in West Texas and all this stuff to vote, and you need to reach out to these people. Bernie Sanders did pretty well at it. A lot of Latino people love Bernie Sanders. I was listening to a podcast with his campaign director for it, and it was just such easy stuff. You just have to not basically show up in a month before the election and just be vote for Joe Biden. You need to continue doing this a year in advance, 8 months in advance. You have to continually ask them and tell them about these things. And I don't know. We're gonna have to see what happens in the inauguration. Hopefully everything goes safely. 100%. I would love to have everything go safely. But I do generally want to see these senators. I'm really glad all these things happening to Hawley is happening to him, where he's got his book deal canceled. Hallmark has basically asked for their money back from him.
Yeah,
a bunch of
sponsors
PAC donors are asking for money back. All these things.
Yeah.
The biggest Kansas newspaper, or the biggest newspaper in Kansas City, has basically called for his resignation.
Hawley and Cruz both need to resign. They both need to be removed or resign, because
neither are going to resign. They're so egotistic.
Because they enabled Trump's behavior, which enabled the people to basically.
But I mean, if Mitch McConnell wants
Trump
to
be removed,
you saw that, right? Mitch McConnell wants Trump impeached.
I did see that.
He's fine with it.
Yeah,
he encourages it.
Yeah, he's in favor. He's in favor with it. Yeah,
because he knows now he's looking at the future. He's looking at odds are I need my Republican Party to be the same. We can't continue to go down Trump's path.
Yeah.
So if we can just eliminate this cancer as soon as possible, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, and absolutely. I think a lot of people are getting pushback, or Ted Cruz and Hawley, they're getting pretty big pushback, at this stuff. I don't know about Texans and stuff like that, but it's just, what does this country become, man? I just keep looking at this. I keep looking at the whole Capitol thing. It's what has this become? And I feel bad to whoever's listening to this, and it's it sounds so dark and dreary, and there's nothing to be made of this, but or some people just ignore the fact that it is dark and dreary. Like, again, it's the two different Americas. Like, if you just follow your life based on what Trump's Twitter posts used to be like, you'd think everything's peachy. Everybody loves Trump. Everything's great. Everything's going great in this country. Like, you wouldn't even think coronavirus is that big of an issue. Whereas if you look at, like, arguably the left side of Twitter, it's whatever. And it's just like, then the conversation always becomes, hey, can't we all just get along? No matter who wins, let's just learn to love each other. Let's respect each other for our differences. It's like, bro, like, we can respect each other's differences on how we believe the American people should be taxed, or like how they should get the money to get universal health care, but not like on the fact of, oh, maybe civil rights do matter. Like, that should not be let's agree to disagree on that. Or honestly, hey, maybe we should just not give health insurance to people because they're poor.
Honestly, how I'm going to pick my friends from now on is I'm going to ask them if they support the Equal Rights Amendment, and if they say no, I'm just going to push them out of my life.
I don't think that. I think you should say, do you support or do you believe systemic racism is a problem? If they say no, then clearly you should be like, okay, well, they're not smart, or they're not looking at the news correctly. Yeah.
Not delusional, but they don't have enough critical thinking skills to realize that.
It's like the school system too. I've talked about it so many times. Like, at least for our school systems, like, the essay curriculum is always like, hey, find evidence that supports your thesis / your point of view / your topic. And like, the whole idea of a persuasive piece is then you find a counter piece of evidence and you work to refute it. But the way you're doing it is you're just trying to find the easiest counter evidence, not the largest one. You know what I mean? And so, with that, it's just really like, with the way the school system is teaching us, it's always to find and research points that enhance our perspective, not enlighten us on others. Yeah, it's kind of poetic, don't you think? It's a very poetic thing. It's like,
sure.
If I had learned that early on too, it's like maybe I would be much more like, being somewhat liberal in conservative Texas is very or it's like you already feel like an outsider, and being a minority on top of that, it's like, oh wow, it's like you already feel like a huge outsider, and that enabled me to just have to tolerate these people for so long. And that was back then when arguably the Republican Party was like, okay, with the Romneys and the McCains, but with how the country is going with greater division and just misinformation, I think misinformation should be counted as against free speech. I think that should be illegal, just misinformation. But then again, what constitutes misinformation? Jordan Peterson lovers will be like, oh my god, you can't do this, imposing free speech.
Slippery slope. Oh my god, you impose free you limit our
I don't think like someone should be able
misinformation, and then suddenly we can't talk about how we hate the president. Oh my god, we're being oppressed.
Like, I don't think the founding fathers ever thought that a million, or like there could be one person who created this thing that can just reach a million people in the span of a second, right? Like, just send a million emails, I think the founding fathers didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
like, they would never have imagined that.
Right. I want to point out that another thing along the lines of why I think misinformation shouldn't be considered free speech is because if it genuinely impacts the health of our nation, like spreading lies about masks don't work, don't wear your masks, that genuinely is causing more people to get COVID-19, and there are some people who will deny it because they're deniers and don't believe in actual science and are delusional and believe everything that the right says. If you actually look at the information and have some critical thinking skills about the things that say otherwise, you will realize that misinformation is being very harmful to our nation. It's leading to all of these, I don't know. That's why I think, to a certain degree, Naimer's right in that sense. It's like,
again, the other thing, it's like, it's the thing, like, our friend of ours, Joey, he was talking about, like, an encounter he had with a person that was basically trying to defend the insurrections to a degree, basically blaming Antifa and all that. She was just like, but what about this? And then Joey was like continually like trying to like debunk all this stuff. And there was one thing that he just didn't hear about, so he was just like confused because he didn't necessarily have information to debunk it. So he'd be like, I mean, I don't know, I hadn't really heard that much about it. And then she's like, she basically probably thought like, oh, we can just agree to disagree. Thank you for being so civil. It's like, yo, bro, he literally debunked like 3 out of the 4 points you had, and yet you still think like your point is still the correct one. That doesn't make any sense to me. Just, if you wrote an essay and 3 of your points were wrong and your teacher graded it, you'd get like a 15.
You'd get a 25% or even less. Yeah, 50, whatever you want to say. 3 out of 4.
You know what I mean? It's like, if it was just fake. I mean, and then that's another thing, right? It's like when they talk about like when we had standardized testing for our writing tests, like the state standardized testing, like you would have to do a persuasive one or like a an expository writing thing, and the teacher's tip was be like just make up fake information if you have to have it, because you don't have time to like you can't research.
Fake it till
You're
you
just
make
in a
it.
room.
Yeah, you don't have time to research. Just think something up.
Like how disgusting is that
Make it-
too? It's
make it
like,
believable.
Why is this the way that we're being taught in school?
Why are we
It's just
teaching
like-
kids this?
Yeah,
Why is there a
it's like in
pressure to?
7th
Why is there
grade,
even a
bro.
star writing test if your goal is just gonna be okay? We just got to get them to pass. We just got to get them to pass. Okay, you can just make up whatever you want. It's like, excuse me.
I don't know.
Anyway.
This is why I hope Daniel will
We
be the
gotta-
future of teachers. He will fix everything single-handedly.
I
Fix
will
communism,
liberalize the
fix
students.
capitalization.
'Cause everybody
yeah,
knows
like he's
that
going to be teaching fractions
education
in
is
high school.
liberal.
Yeah, he's going to be teaching fractions in high school. It's like, anyway, so this is an improper fraction, just like how people say socialism has never been done before. And the fact that the Trump administration lied to people. Anyway, also, and then the teacher's like, and some kids like,
And here's how you
teachers
write.
like-
Here's how you convert to a mixed number. Yes, Naimur, what's going on? Huh?
it's like, that's a 3, not a 4. It's like, oh, thank you, sorry. Just
Oh,
how
thank you.
similar. Just similar to
Similar
how
to
Trump
how-
said kofefe, and he treated it
He
as if it
misspelled.
wasn't a grammatical
Yeah, everything I'm
error.
gonna say is just connected to like
Yeah.
trying to be as
I don't know.
liberal as possible.
First derivatives, just like the first term of Trump, and second derivatives is kind of like the second term, except it didn't happen, unlike the second derivative and stuff like that. That'd be so stupid.
Naimur, this bit is dying.
It is dying.
It wasn't
fast.
funny. It was kind of funny, but the jokes weren't landing. So
It was pretty bad.
It's because you're a liberal, okay? You're a liberal hack. No one likes your jokes, okay? Liberal, libby lib.
Libby lib.
Anyway, if you guys want me to do my own podcast, I will be on Parler. Just kidding, okay.
We gotta
Uh,
go, man. We have to go. But this has been fun. Sorry if we insulted you.
Dude,
Sorry.
this is like
I
a
mean, not
political
really. Not that
only
sorry,
podcast.
honestly.
I don't know, man. This is there's like all politics. We didn't talk about nothing non-political.
That's
related.
okay though, because I mean,
I
what
wanted
are we
to talk
supposed
about
the
Tom
most,
Holland
the most
tweeted.
influential political moment in our probably in our lifetimes. happened
Yeah,
a
and
few-
it's like,
a few
where
days
were
ago.
you? You know what I mean? Were you just out with your friends getting
Yeah.
lattes at Starbucks, taking photos for your Instagram feed? Or you're just like,
Yeah.
I mean, again, we were at home, so we're not like special or anything. It's like we weren't.
And then
like-
you just tweet like a black square, and in white text it says "Remember that capital."
or
nobody's
yeah,
done
tweet
that, but
someone
you know what I
else's
mean? Something
tweet
like that. Where it's
about
like,
how they struggled at a
Yeah.
protest. You know, like, I'm not saying don't do anything, but I just think this should be a time to sit back, enlighten
and
yourself,
think.
and
Think for a
think,
moment.
bro. Think for yourself. Don't look at a Twitter post. Think for yourself. What do you believe? And then look at both perspectives to a degree. You know.
Yeah.
I don't think. There's a thing where there are certain things that just aren't both sides viable.
Yeah, we've
know,
talked about this many
this is-
times before.
Overtaking democracy, or like changing the course of democracy just so that you can have the dude that lost win. That's not a both sides viable issue. Civil rights is not a both sides viable issue, because if it was, then guess what? Slavery would probably be still happening, and I probably wouldn't even be allowed in this country. So, like that's what you get when you get compromise in both sides viable things on certain topics. Some other things, theoretically, that's what politics should be: is compromising. But when it comes to civil rights,
Certain
and how
topics, yes.
how America is right now, we're still basically living the effects of the lack of Reconstruction, right? I would say, like, Jim Crow is still relatively in effect in America, right? Maybe not in
Yeah.
the very liberal areas, but it is still
or
here.
not directly. Like it's not like we still have Jim Crow laws around, but the strange amount of voter suppression that goes on. Very
Voter
suspicious.
suppression, the lack of believing that black people don't have, or black people are not being treated equally. The lack of reality in just denying that. The idea that racism is still alive and well in our country. All that stuff. I don't know. This was a very political podcast. If you listen to this,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you don't get too angry. If you disagree with us, again, just take a deep breath, not relax, but like get on your knees and suck down Ted Cruz's sweet little. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that.
Yeah, great. This is a great
I'm
way
kidding.
to
I'm
end
kidding.
the
I'm kidding.
podcast.
If you disagree with us, sit back, just think, look at both sides, formulate your own opinion. Stop looking at other people's stupid tweets. Stop looking at some verified comedian who says something racy or funny on both sides, left or right. Right?
Because I think a lot of the opinions, by the way, I think a lot of the opinions we share here is our own critical thing. I mean, that's why we're doing an hour-plus long podcast on it, because we have our own ideas, or we can contribute into our own idea, not just regurgitate things we've seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least that's what I try to do.
And if someone is also disagreeing with you, let's say you're on the same camp as us, just you gotta understand it's like part of it has to do with the fact that they're just being misled. You know, it's like they've been fed so many false lies. It's just to a certain degree. I don't know. It's makes you wonder, makes you think. I don't know. Hopefully, next podcast won't be as depressing, but you know,
Gloomy,
hopefully nothing bad
doomy.
happens.
Yeah.
In Begamba Dones. I don't know. I want to talk about how Tom Holland. He just tweeted he just tweeted a release date. It's basically January 14th. So I don't know what that means.
For what?
Do you think he just tweeted a release date?
Spider-Man.
It was just 14, but he did it in the
Hey,
UK
who said it was
way.
a release date? Who said it was a release date?
It was just a
It
date.
could have just been
Okay.
a date.
It was a date.
Yeah.
So, you know, who knows what but he did it in the British way, so like I had like dyslexia for a second where I couldn't understand it. I was like 1401.
It was
21.
1401. Yeah.
Oh, January 14th because they do day month here because they're dumb.
Wait, January 14th. That's in 2 days. What?
Yeah, so does that mean a Spider-Man
It's in
trailer
one
is
day
coming out?
now.
I don't know,
It's in
bro.
one day now. Maybe it's the movie that's going to come out.
Anyways,
Yeah.
this has been
Little
fun.
do you know. Jeepers
We're gonna
Creepers
title
4.
this
It's
podcast
coming out.
something
Tom
about-
Holland's the main cast member. That's it, bro.
We're gonna
we
title the
rambled on too long.
podcast. No, hold on. We're gonna title the podcast something to do with Tom Holland. So this is the most clickbaity podcast ever.
yeah,
The last
for
3 minutes we talk about him, and that's the entire. Okay,
Sorry if we
that's the
clickbaited on that
podcast.
GTA
Less
one,
even.
where we said we totally leaked GTA 5 or GTA 6
Six.
because you know I don't want to spoil it that podcast or anything, but we didn't actually leak GTA 6.
There was sarcasm in the title. I think people picked up on it.
All right, yeah.
And if you
Well,
didn't-
love you all. In these
Yeah.
changing times of America,
Love
we
you
gotta
guys.
stay together,
Sorry for
unite.
the long
you.
podcast about politics.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.